The thing is, like, successful people really, really want to help. They
Yes.
really do. The the problem is they have tried to help so many people out that haven't acted on their advice. It's hard for them to willingly want to put time, energy, and effort into helping you out if you don't ask. And when you ask and then you act, all of a sudden they're a lot more likely to want to help you out more. And when you keep asking and acting, what happens is they keep taking more interest in the mission that you're pursuing. And when that happens, you start to become a lot like them, where you put your mind into something that you want to achieve that it would be impossible if you didn't get around other people who could help guide you in that vision.
Welcome, everyone, to Doing Business with the Servant's Heart podcast. I'm your host, Steve Ramona, and I think this is the week of podcasts for young guys that are killing it in business. This guest is doing so well. I'm 64, and he's inspiring me and educating me on a number of things. He's going to do the same for you today. But before we start, here's our gratitude. Every step forward, no matter how small, is progress. Wow, that is huge. Just keep stepping forward or take two steps back. I have stuff, two steps forward, half a step back, two steps forward. What's that equal to? 1.5 steps forward. Learned that from a very wealthy guy, a rich guy, successful guy. I'll never forget that. So let's bring our guest on. Brandon, welcome to the show.
Yeah, I appreciate you having me on. And it's it's interesting to hear what you said in the introduction with you're like, hey, this is the week of the young guests, and you mentioned, hey, I'm 64 years old, but yet you find inspiration in a lot of different ways. And I've been fortunate enough to have a lot of good mentors in my life. And one of my mentors is in his early 60s, and he was on a podcast. And at the very end of the podcast, he's like, I'm mentoring a young man right now who inspires me in a lot of ways. And a lot of times I feel like I'm learning more from him than he is from me. And of course, I look at it the total opposite.
Yes.
And the older I get, the more that I get inspired by younger people who are chasing after their dreams and going after the things that they want to. And because the more successful people I meet, the more I realize a common trend. Almost every one of them would give it all up, all the money, all the following, the fame, all that stuff, for the chance to be able to do it again. And so in this next 20 minutes or so, I hope we can inspire some people to be able to go after the things that they want in life, because there's going to get to a point where we are faced with the end of our life. Yeah. And whether that's at 40 years old, 50 years old, 60, 70, 80, 100 years old, and we're going to have to ask ourselves that question. Are we fulfilled with the things that we did when we were on this earth? And that's my goal in life, and I think it's many people's goals. So hopefully we can inspire some people throughout this podcast.
Well, you unpacked a lot there, and you read my mind because I was going to ask you about mentors. Being young, the guy, interesting guy I interviewed yesterday, same thing. Had every successful person has a mentor, and the cool thing for me, everything that you share and have taught me since the first time we met, I've shared with other people. That's
Yeah.
the power of it. I not only get to learn, but I get to servant's heart. Why are you so passionate about speaking? It's your lifeblood right now, what you do.
Well, I think there's this famous saying that I heard when I was younger that many people have probably heard: communication solves 99% of problems. And I was a very poor communicator growing up, mostly because I just didn't communicate a lot. I'm a middle child. It was just easier for me to hold things in than most people. And my mom, she has a speech impediment. I didn't actually know it was an official speech impediment until I was an adult, and she explained to me how there's actually like damage to her vocal cords, which is why yeah, and she kind of has like a shake to her voice. So like she speaks normally, fluently, multiple languages, all that, but has a little bit of a shake. And so I naturally talked slower growing up, and I naturally talked less growing up. So I was definitely one of the shyer kids in high school. And then as I got older, I started gaining mentors and I started to understand how to ask better questions. I started to understand what would get someone to want to talk to you more. I started to understand the importance of how to care and serve. I love the name, the Servant Leaders podcast. I started to learn how to do those different things, whether it was serving food, cleaning golf clubs, answering phone calls, all of those you had to understand how to take care of people. And communication was a huge part of that, not just with your words, but your actions. And so when I was 23 years old, there was a director at my gym. I was a personal trainer when I was younger. She was making $275 an hour. And 10 years ago,
Hmm.
that was a lot of money per hour, more or less. Now that's a ton of money per hour. And so I said, what are you doing that I need to be doing? And she said, well, I took this speaker school and then I hired that guy as a business consultant. And so I looked at the price of the speaker school. It was like maybe 1,500. And I was like, yeah, I know I need to do this, but I'm gonna hold off a little bit. But I started going to his business events that were a little lower ticketed. And 2 years later, I was 25. I said, I'm going to go to the speaker school. And of course, I'm the youngest person there. And after the 3 days, I said, this was the most valuable thing I ever invested in my life up to this point. If, a big if I don't let all that information go in through one ear and out through the other. I need to start practicing this stuff consistently so that I can accumulate what I just saw over the last 3 days. A guy who did this for over 40 years. If I can figure out how to do what this guy is doing, I think I can do some special things in my life. And so I started making 4 posts a week, mostly videos. And 7.5 years later, I'd be shocked if you go back on the Warm Heart Life Instagram and don't see at least an average of 4 posts a week over the last 7.5 years. And those first 3 or 4 years were mostly videos of me speaking.
Yes,
So
yes.
with 5 likes and 60 views, like 3 years in. And so that's what a lot of people don't see when they see the current me who's done a comedy special for 3 years now, written 5 books, got to teach a speaker training to the students who attend the #1 business school in the country. That's what a lot of people don't see now, that I was doing for years to try and make sure I got the value out of that speaker mastermind, like our speaker school. So I teach a speaker school now naturally because my mentor encouraged me to start teaching one. And one of the biggest things that I tell people, I'm like, this won't be worth it for you if you just want to take a 2 day or 4 week course and expect that you're going to be great. Like, because if that's what you want, like, I'm not going to guarantee you any results. It doesn't work like that. I'll help you understand exactly what you need to do to be great. I'll help you get started with content creation. I'll help put pressure situations under you so you understand how to prepare for a keynote better. But what I can't do is put in the work that you'll need to put in over the next 3, 5, 7, 10 years to become phenomenal.
Yeah. Take action. And I forgot the other thing I was going to say, but those are two huge lessons for entrepreneurs listening, business owners, 8 to 5ers. You do something, take action. The worst thing has happened, it doesn't work, and you move on. If that didn't work for you, because how many people go to I'm not going to say names, but these conventions, we'll just call them that, and they come out for a week like, raw, this, I'm going to
Yeah.
do this, and it
Yeah.
just fades as
Yeah.
weeks go by. And that's, I think, the difference between you and somebody that's trying to be successful is that you took the 3 days and you grew on it. You didn't go, hey, I went to this great guy, I saw Joe Smith, and
Yeah.
I'm a better speaker. So is that led you to, because you do masterminds, you do 9 so far, you got 9 scheduled this year. Is
Yeah.
that what led you to the masterminds, the speaking school you went to in the sense?
Yeah, when my mentor started to encourage me to start teaching the speaking stuff, you would think it would have been through his business. He was like at the point where he's pretty much retired. He just saw something in me, and I think he wanted a lot of his wisdom continued to be carried on. So he just said, go start teaching a speaker school. And I had no idea how to do that. He was teaching it for 3 days. I'm like, there's no way I'm going to get people to listen to me for 3 days. And so we started teaching it once a week for 4 or 5 week periods. And after 5 to 7 rounds of those, like me and the guys was I was teaching with, we became much better teachers. And so I told Carl, the guy I teach with much of the time, I said, we're a lot better teachers. There's a lot that we're not teaching that I know everybody needs. What do you think about doing this in a 2 day format where we have people for 2 days, we have their full attention, and we can work with them? But I said, here's the thing. Instead of just the 2 days, we need to do a build up because I don't want people going into this cold. So we did a build up virtually at 4 weeks at the time. Now we do it in 3 weeks. And then we had them 2 full days in person. And so after we did that first one, I said, I don't think we could go back to the way we were doing it before. And then we toured around the country that year I say toured around the country. We did 4 masterminds after that, in different areas around the country. We did Laguna Beach, California, Toronto, Canada, Chicago, Illinois, and then New York City. We had an elite one, and that was in 2023. And so now we're in our fourth year of doing the actual touring of these, and fifth year of actually teaching these.
And you're up to 9 already.
Yeah.
People reaching out to you. And what's interesting about your mastermind, this is a great idea. So anybody out there thinking about doing masterminds or conferences, whatever label you put on it, that's a great idea because I'm going to guess, Brandon, your attendance was much higher because those 4 weeks prior, people are engaged, they show up. Because that's the problem with some of these. 1,000 people sign up and 100 show up.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and I kind of vet people out. It's not like anybody just can randomly sign up. Like people go through a phone call with me, and we see if it's a good fit. And I think the biggest thing is I didn't want to be one of those speaking programs that was, hey, we're $10,000 and we're going to guarantee you this speaking engagement and this, because it doesn't work like that. It just doesn't. I don't care. Like, I'll put my word on that with any speaking program. It doesn't work like that. If you want to be a great speaker, it takes dedication, months, years and years to be able to be put in the situations that help prepare you to be able to nail it that time where you finally do get in front of 1,000 people, and you understand the lighting, you understand the communication between the person hosting the event or not. You understand how to accumulate for the curveballs. Like I had a conference. There was a huge car accident on 95, the big highway near me. There was a huge car accident. Oil truck flipped over, shut the whole highway down. Right. So all of a sudden, I'm hosting this conference, and there's a lady speaking. Meanwhile, she put so much time, energy, and effort into this speech, and people's phones start buzzing. You know, that alert that you get when there's a like emergency in the town, and everybody's phone starts going off at different times during her speech. Like, how do you prepare for that stuff off of a 2 day course? Like Tiger Woods' dad, one of the best golfers ever, his dad, he used to like throw golf balls at the golf ball Tiger was trying to hit while Tiger was practicing, right? To help prepare him for the crowd, the person in the
Yes.
crowd that yells in his backswing, "You're gonna miss it," like any, and but Tiger was so mentally prepared for all these curveballs because his dad would do drills like that over years and years and years as he was growing up, and in speaking, it's the same thing. Like, there's just so many curveballs that go along with being a great speaker. Like, I've been doing speaking very consistently for the last 7.5 years. I've been speaking in general for 10 years, and you would be shocked like at how many things happen to me on a daily or weekly basis that I'm like, oh my gosh, like I would have, like, how would I have known to handle that situation unless I got in it? Like, I hosted TEDx Stanford on Tuesday night. We can have up to 100 people for that. That's a TEDx rule. And we sold 100 tickets. So we had a sold out event Tuesday night. The next morning, I have to get up at, I think, like 5 a.m. to go travel an hour and a half to a high school in Staten Island that I don't even know the name of the mascot of this school. Like I just it was a last minute thing. And she goes, "Hey, I need you to speak 90 minutes, and then I need you to speak another 90 minutes to a second group."
Wow.
This is Wednesday. I got this gig booked on a Monday. Okay, so I probably should have said no to it, but it was hard to turn down the money, so I was like yes, and I have a stock 90 minute for high school where I knew what to do there. The tough part was the second 90 minutes, half the people who were in the first group
When this
re-show back up to the second group. So now I have 90 minutes with
oh,
half of the same group that were in there for the first 90 minutes because I wanted to just do the same one because I was like, okay, the first group that went pretty well, I know what to do with the second group. Now I'm thinking, what the heck am I gonna do? And so I had to totally switch things up to just to be able to keep their attention. And it was very hard, and it's just kind of one of those things. It's like as many times I'm probably around 630 speaking engagements. As many times as I spoke, it's so hard to prepare for a situation like that, where there's just, I just don't know many people who would be able to handle that
yeah.
second 90 minutes, and what I will openly admit, it was very hard for me to do it. And I got to 83 minutes and I was just like, wow, we made it that far. I thought we were good. And so I told all the students, I was like, great job. I got so much respect for what you shared today. All that principal comes in. He's like, why are all you lighting up to get out of here? I said this was at 11:05. We were done. It was 10:57. And so he's like screaming at all
Scrambling.
the students to get back in their seats. And I'm like, okay, I got to go another 3, 4 minutes, so right away, snap of a finger. What about, okay, I'm going to talk about the three C's. Boom. And I go right into the three C's and I was able to finish it off. But man, there at comedy, I've been doing comedy for 3 years. You'd be amazed at the amount of things that get thrown at you at open mics.
Yeah, yeah, I've heard, I've seen some videos of hecklers. And what's interesting is, audience, if you're a speaker and don't have your experience, Brandon, I would don't take that.
Yeah,
But you knew with you, I mean, if I'm just speaking this is my first gig and it's Monday and Wednesday, I gotta do 290 minutes, just don't take it because you're not doing you or this case, the high school justice. But on the flip side, experience is why you did it and were successful, but also your experiences teaches speakers how to overcome this stuff, right?
absolutely. I mean, my first speaking engagement outside of like high school or college communication classes, my first actual speaking engagement, I booked it 2 months prior. And I knew nobody was going to pay me. I didn't have any speaker assets. I didn't even know if I could speak, but I wanted to speak in front of 50 people or more. So I called my former college and I talked to my mentor. I said, hey, my goal is to speak in front of 50 people or more by the end of the year. And he's like, okay, let me see what I can do. So he helps me book 4 speeches in one day at the school. So I reach out to this lady, Ashley, who was around my age, who lived about 45 minutes from me, who had just opened for Gary Vee for a speech. Now, this is like 10 years ago. And so I reached out to her for some advice on speaking. And she said, okay, meet me in the Barnes and Noble. I meet her in the Barnes and Noble. She said, what's your speech on? I was like, my speech is on leadership, one of the four. She said, okay, share your speech. I start sharing the speech. I'm reading off the slides. She shuts my computer down and she says, Brandon, you're speaking on leadership. Why are you a leader? And I totally blanked out when my slides weren't there.
Oh, wow.
And so I ended up having to face a situation with her where she was like, If I were you, Brandon, I would tell the school that you're not ready to speak. And so I had to face a decision there, and I drove back that 45 minutes that day, and I went to practice in the park for an hour. And after practicing that question, why are you a leader, for an hour, I realized if I can make that progress in an hour, I think I can figure this out over 2 months. And I went and I gave 4 speeches in 2 days, and I'm forever grateful for that experience.
Another mentor for you, somebody lit you up. Um, Introverts, I talked to a lot of them, especially about connecting and networking, that communication, which is like speaking, but different. How do I jump on a one-on-one? And how would you tell an introvert, can they be a good speaker? And what advice do you give them?
I think introverts are a lot of times some of the best speakers because they think a lot. I think introverts typically think a lot.
I do.
And if someone wants to prove me wrong on that, that's fine. This is from my observations. Me, naturally, I was introverted. I think I've turned into kind of a mix of both. But introverts are some of the greatest thinkers, and a great thinker, they make the most use out of their words. Someone who's extroverted, they tend to blabble a lot, not always the case. And so
Yep.
if you're introverted, understand you probably have a good message to share because you're very thorough with when you do actually speak. And Russell Brunson, who made $3 million off a 90-minute speech, he admits openly like he's a very introverted person.
Amazing. That's a great piece of advice. Similar to what I do for connecting and questions. It sounds like the 290 minutes you did, you engage with the high school students by asking them questions. Hey, raise your hand if walk the mile, whatever that question is. That's
Yeah.
because introverts can say a question, shut up, and listen. Because how much, and we're coming to the end here. I could keep going with you for hours, but honestly, I want to not bore you. I don't want to have you leave. How much is listening part of speaking? Because it's kind of backwards in a sense.
I think it's a big part of it. Like, if you want to design a great speech, you can just ask people the questions they have about that topic and then answer those questions on that topic. So, a lot of times people will tell you exactly what they want to hear if you just listen. So, for example, someone says, hey, how do I get in front of more people? I know that I can expand on that in a speech. If someone says, hey, how do I fill up a room? I know that I can expand on that in the speech. And in my book, How to Become a Phenomenal Public Speaker, it's just an accumulation of a lot of the questions I got over the years.
Yeah.
And in my other book, Skip College, Read This, I mentored high school and college students for 2 years. And I took note of the questions that they had, the problems that they face, and then I turned that into a book. So I think the more you listen to the questions people have, the problems people face, and the more you focus on answering those in a way that engage them, the more you're due to, hit something where there's a demand.
Well, I'm going to thank you, Brandon, because I owe you, because I'm doing this. I'm speaking to a group tomorrow about podcasting and business, and I'm always thinking about that when I'm speaking. I'll do a lot like you, but
Yeah.
engaging people, because I would never go to I shouldn't say, I rarely would go to a speaker that just speaks for 90 minutes
Yeah.
without any engagement. It's just, I would walk out, and it sounds like you would too. So the engagement, and that's a great tip for you out there that are speaking to groups and stuff. Ask those questions, engage, make it community, make it a community speech. Yeah, you're the expert, but maybe they bring something out of you, which is really cool.
Yeah. And if I can leave you with one last thing,
Yeah.
a true 75-minute keynote, the speaker already knows all the questions that people have. And that's why it's such a good keynote. The ones who can really do that, very, very, very few people do that. That's why I stopped studying as many speakers and I started studying more comedians because they had already worked out their skits like over and over and over again. And so if you're not used to doing more than 15 to 20-minute speeches, you probably have to make them very hands-on to keep the crowd's attention. And there's nothing wrong with that. I give about a 2.5 hour keynote, my main keynote. I've been working on that for 4 years. I
Jeez.
know I know what's going to connect with people and what's not. It's when you see that speech in a speaker mastermind, for if anyone goes through that, when you see that speech, you're probably like, how the hell did he keep my attention for 2.5 hours?
Yeah.
And the reason is because I've worked out so many transitions, so many stories, so many slides, constantly taking things out, right? Constantly adding things in to make sure that I can keep your attention just like a movie does for 2 hours.
Yeah.
Now,
You keep reading my mind. I don't know. We're so good
yeah.
because that's my thought. You can go to a movie and go, my, that was a 2.5 hour movie. I just went and saw a movie. Um, oh, Project Hail Mary, 2 hours and 30 minutes. Shout out to Ryan. It was a great show. But it flew by, and we looked up, went, the movie's over. That was 2 hours. You're right. Same with this beat. You have to keep looking at your watch, going, when is it over? You
Yeah.
failed. Well, let's end with a fun question. I'm going to come to your city. You're going to tell me your favorite restaurant. I'm going to book a table for us. A couple of things I want you to do. I want you to invite 3 people who've been extremely influential in your life. And for me, because I'm a foodie, what food would you order for the table?
Oh, that's a great. And they're people who are alive.
Or dead. Yeah, I'm sorry. I always forget that. Live or dead, doesn't matter.
Oh, well, I'm gonna stick with the live one, and I'm
Okay.
gonna go non-family based for this because, I think typical you could go like family based on this, and great family. I would love to have them at this table, but if I were to go like non-blood related, I would go my mentor Ken. He was my mentor from 20 to my mid 20s, and then my mentor Tom Plummer. He's my public speaking and business mentor in a lot of ways from 23 until he still is to this day. And then my current mentor, Robert Koenigsberger, who's been a mentor of mine since I was probably 26 years old, and he's shown me a whole different level of thinking. He's got seven 7.4 billion assets under management, and it's fun talking to someone who doesn't limit their thinking because I'm a big thinker as well, but then also putting strategy behind that. And I would love to have all three of them at a table with me. I think about that all the time, how cool it would be to have them all at a dinner. And then um, I would love to have some like grass-fed steak, just so good. And yeah, that would be the main course, whatever comes
Beautiful.
with
Yeah,
that.
we'll let them choose their sides. And
Yeah.
I love talking to billionaires. I'm so with you. A lot, not all of them are good people, but it sounds like he is. The couple I've talked to and work with, they want to teach you if you're willing to, go back to the start, take action what they give. And now I've got friends, and like he's a friend and a mentor. See, that's the combination that I love that you've said. They're a friend and a mentor.
Yeah. The thing is, like, successful people really, really want to help. They
Yes.
really do. The problem is they have tried to help so many people out that haven't acted on their advice. It's hard for them to willingly want to put time, energy, and effort into helping you out if you don't ask. And when you ask and then you act, all of a sudden they're a lot more likely to want to help you out more. And when you keep asking and acting, what happens is they keep taking more interest in the mission that you're pursuing. And when that happens, you start to become a lot like them, where you put your mind into something that you want to achieve that it would be impossible if you didn't get around other people who could help guide you in that vision. And they could relate to that because everybody who's achieved success to whatever level that means, they have had some sort of guidance to be able to get there. And I'm grateful to have learned that when I was 20. I had a guy come into my college mandatory seminar. I had my head down. I didn't want to be there. All I wanted to do was sleep in the back. And he talked about how when he was younger, he wanted to be the best in the world at what he did. So he just wrote down the top 10 people who were the best at that.
Hmm.
And then he went, learned, observed, shadowed, studied, and met those 10 people. I wrote down my list of 10 people when I was 20 years old in college, junior year. And I said, after that, I said screw it to college. Like I continued to get my degree. I even have a master's degree, but like I didn't focus on my learning through college after that. Like I didn't drop out, or I don't have any cool stories like that. I just didn't care about the academics in college after that. What I cared about was learning from the people who had what I wanted. 26 years old, I get voted top 50 in America at my first career, at my first career out of college, right? Youngest person on that list. The only reason that I got that was because I followed that concept of who are the people that I have what I want. Let me go learn from them. And I had people that would take me in for a half day and I could ask them any question I wanted. I had people I interned for that I got to spend 3, 7 months around, and I got to start to see the habits that they were in. And when I got to that part of my career, I just felt like there was something more to me because I saw that this could work for other things too. And that's when I said I want to create the most impactful education system in the world. And in order to do that, I had to follow that same concept. Who are the people that can help me understand what it takes to be able to get there instead of like, that's the number one question I get. How are you going to do that? I don't know how I'm going to do that. I'm going to focus on getting around the right people who can help me figure out the steps that I need to take to give myself the best chance to get it. A lot of people are like, okay, so you're going to do it. You're going to do it. I don't know if I'm going to do it. I'm trying to do something that has never been done. I am going to do everything I can to give myself the best chance to be able to do it. And whatever comes as a result of that, I'm excited to see what
Yeah.
happens.
Yeah, it's a great way to end the show because you're right. It's an act. I forgot to ask and act, ask and act, ask and act. Because you're right, they all did. Cubans, Buffett's. If you ask there or hear stories, and here's the beautiful. I'll end with this audience. You don't. We'd love to meet those 10 people. I've got some like, but if you don't meet them, you can just jump on a YouTube or just do a search, and there's so many videos. We are meeting them virtually and still
Yeah.
getting educated, right? So still getting educated. So I know people I've mentioned that before, like, wow, I'll never be able to meet them. You could still learn from them. That's the whole key. And of course, take action. With that being said, thank you again. You did successfully do what we talked about before the show. I got notes for me. You've helped me. I know the audience wants to connect with you. How can they do that?
So Brandon Gaydorus, pretty much any social media. Luckily, most people have probably never heard of my last name because I don't know many people at all that have it besides family members. So social media, it's Brandon Gaydorus. And then my phone number, 607-348-6136. You could call it or you could text it.
We'll have the information in the show notes as well. I didn't know. Remind me about the two books. Name of the titles, or where we can get them for your books.
Yeah, How to Become a Phenomenal Public Speaker, Skip College, Read This, and then The Care Principle, Creating a Life That Makes a Difference to the World Under 30. And then I got a couple books from my previous career as well.
Look at that, and you get them all on Amazon. I'm sure. Look up your name or title,
Yeah,
whatever, and
they're
get
all on
them.
Amazon.
And we're not done yet. I know this guy's doing way too much, in a good way. I do a lot, but you do a ton. Where your masterminds are left? We're in April of 2026. Where are your locations that people might be able to access?
Yeah, so Stamford, Connecticut, May 15th and 16th. Santorini, Greece, June 12th to the 14th. Laguna Beach, California, July 17th and 18th. Stamford, Connecticut, August 14th and 15th. Atlanta, Georgia, September 18th and 19th. And then we have an elite one in New York City, Stamford area. So you have to go through a previous one. That's October 16th and 17th. And then November 14th and 15th, Bedford Springs, Pennsylvania.
And he does. If he hasn't done enough, we'll give him more to do because he's young. He can do much more. No, I'm kidding. I appreciate you so much, Brandon. Thanks again for taking the time being on the show. And audience, subscribe to the YouTube channel. And the perfect example is this show. Somebody that's an introvert that wants to speak, wants to brand themselves, wants to grow their business, their revenue. That's what this is all tied to. Every time I do a show, Brandon does a show or speaks. We're marketing our expertise, our brand. and it might be tied to whatever your business is. So share it out, use these as gifts, and let's impact as many people as we can. With that being said, me and Brandon want to thank everyone for watching or listening to this podcast, and we'll see you all in the next episode of Doing Business with a Servant's Heart. Have a great day, everyone.